I like to think that I graduated from one of the finest journalism schools in the entire country, one that no degree you can mount on a wall can even compare to. One that I, along with an entire generation of female journalists, have graduated from with honors. And that list includes the executive producer of NBC Nightly News, Jen Suazo, who is here with us tonight. The first female executive producer of Today, Libby Least, who is also here with us tonight. And my friend and pal in D.C., Michelle Perry, who is, of course, the executive producer of Andrea Mitchell Reports. She is with Andrea every day in the trenches, and countless others, so many who are here with us tonight. This is a school that, instead of sending alumni membership dues in the mail, sends cards for every single birthday and holiday, and never misses an important event of a colleague or a friend. And that is the school of Andrea Mitchell. It is with great honor and so much joy and my whole heart that I present Andrea with tonight's Lifetime Achievement Award for her 50-year career as a trailblazer for women and as a fixture on the international stage of journalism. At every rope line, every press conference, every gaggle that has defined history over the past 5 decades. She has covered 7 presidential administrations. Imagine covering just one. Andrea's covered 7. She's gone toe-to-toe with dictators. She's scooped her competitors, many who are in this room tonight, and I'm sure has had more scoops than you care to recount. Now, I have to make note of the fact that I'm standing in for my dear friend and colleague and a fantastic journalist in her own right, Savannah Guthrie, who really wishes she could be here with all of you tonight. She, as you know, has unfortunately been under the weather, but she wanted me to send along a few thoughts on her behalf. Savannah said, "When I thought about whether it was a good idea to stay up late with pneumonia to give a speech, I thought, would Andrea let a little wimpy illness like pneumonia stop her from anything? Andrea has reported on broken ankles, legs, wrists, fingers, and if you want to know what tough really is, she valiantly returned to work just days after breast cancer surgery. That is a true story." Savannah continues to say, "Andrea is not like the rest of us. Andrea is a woman for whom the universe's most powerful forces, sickness, time, space, gravity, bend and obey. Andrea is her own celestial force." And Savannah is absolutely right about all of that, Andrea. Andrea is as tough as nails. She is known for asking not only the right questions, but the best questions every single time, and the toughest questions as well. Her mother used to tell her she thought it was impolite to shout questions at President Reagan as he departed on the White House South Lawn, but the reality is nothing has ever stopped Andrea. Not President Reagan's chief of staff, who said to her once he would get her fired for asking tough questions about the Iran-Contra affair. Not even Philadelphia's Mayor Frank Rizzo, who called the chairman of the board of the radio station where Andrea worked and asked, "Who is this little girl reporter who keeps asking me all of these difficult questions?" Or that time the Sudanese government didn't know what had hit them when the force of nature that is Andrea Mitchell came knocking on their door. And then there's that unforgettable moment that so many of you have seen that unfolded right here in the U.S. That is where it took practically a football team of White House aides to get in between our dogged chief foreign affairs correspondent and the Secretary of State. Andrea is simply unstoppable. She's relentless. She's the one to beat every single time, a shining example of journalism at its very best. And she's not just a dear friend to so many, but a hands-on mentor, and that's something that I've gotten to experience firsthand. When I first moved to Washington, D.C. in the summer of 2011, and I was terrified, Andrea wasted no time asking me how she could help me, what she could do. So what we did, we had many phone calls. We talked about how I should approach a story, how I could get more information from a source, how I could dig just a little bit deeper, how I could take my reporting just a little bit further. And that's not just unique to me. That is an experience that so many journalists have experienced with Andrea. I call Andrea my DC mom. She and her husband, Alan, have become like family. And I know so many others both see them in the same exact light. When asked recently about the inspiration for her tenacity, Andrea said, "I had a very strong mother, an older sister and father who kept telling his daughters we could do anything we wanted to and encouraged us in every single venture." Well, Andrea, your father was right. You have reached for the stars, you have touched them, and you keep soaring. And the same is for our countless journalists at NBC News and beyond who you've inspired. You've encouraged us and inspired us more than words can capture, Andrea. And I know the best is still yet to come.
I can't tell you how you've touched my heart. Just watching you every day is the greatest joy that I have, watching a colleague of such strength and integrity and brilliance and kindness. Thanks to you, to all of you. Thanks to the incredible people at NBC who put that together. That was a great tour of my hair color. This is overwhelming in so many ways. To Kristen, whose friendship and incredible strength makes me so proud. Kristen, you've broken the mold, proving that being kind, generous, and smart is no obstacle to huge success in a highly competitive profession. This tribute is obviously overwhelming and humbling. I feel incredibly honored, grateful to all of you at the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. It's great to come here and know that you're actually going to get one of these instead of sitting and waiting and praying. But as we all know, none of us achieves anything in this business on our own. Television news is, as I like to say, a team sport. And I indeed owe everything that's happened to me to my mentors at NBC and MSNBC, to Andy Lack, to Noah Oppenheim, to Phil Griffin. Phil Griffin, I remembered tonight, who sent a bottle of champagne, along with Tom Brokaw, to my hotel back in 1996 when I actually completed the New York Marathon, which I never thought I could. And Phil has always been such a kind and great supporter. To the anchors with whom I've worked and from whom I've learned, my colleagues over the years, David Brinkley, Tom Brokaw, Brian Williams, Lester Holt, to Chuck Todd, and of course, the heart and soul of our Washington bureau, Tim Russert. I think I learned more from Tim. Every morning I'd come into the newsroom, we'd both be doing the Today Show, and he'd say, "So what do you know, Mitch? What's new today, Mitch?" He's the only person who ever called me that other than my dad. But in particular tonight, especially tonight, I want to speak about the women who have taught me so much, especially Jen Suazo, Libby Least, Michelle Perry, Yvette Miley, Rashida Jones, and the great Savannah Guthrie. Savannah, thank goodness you are taking a rest tonight. We hope to see you tomorrow and every morning, but pneumonia is a big deal, and Savannah is thankfully taking a little care of herself tonight. I owe a special debt to the sisterhood of broadcast pioneers, to Leslie Stahl, Judy Woodruff, my great friend, and most memorably, tonight I want to talk about Cokie Roberts. we all know, those of you who saw her and watched her from afar, and those of you who are blessed to work with her at ABC and at NPR know just the measure of Cokie Roberts. Cokie represented the best of New Orleans and the best of Washington. Having been nurtured in the South, but raised literally in the halls of Congress, two parents being members of Congress, one majority leader. Watching her on This Week or listening to her on NPR, people were drawn to her enchanting laugh, her keen wit, her fundamental kindness and empathy. She was a founding mother not only of NPR, but also of all of us women journalists in Washington. While supporting and empowering her colleagues, she was always making room for the talented generations who follow, mentoring and lifting up all who came behind. Cokie and I shared a similar foundational experience in broadcast news. When we both got out of college, women were simply not being hired very often. I had the good fortune of talking my way into an entry-level job as what we then were called copy boys. I was a copy boy on the overnight shift at KYW, all news radio, all news all the time. It was a scrappy radio station, an all-news station in Philadelphia, it still is. The outgoing mayor derided me as that little girl. As Kristen Welker mentioned, the incoming mayor tried to get me fired. After I moved to Washington and to the network, so did Ronald Reagan's chief of staff, Don Regan. Perhaps the bullying only made me more determined. Sometimes I think of myself as a pushy broad. I can say that about myself. Some of those pictures were a little bit horrifying, just to see yourself doing that on a big screen. There were stumbles along the way, to be perfectly honest, covering my first foreign assignment, the mass cult murders in Jonestown, Guyana, and big stories back home, 3 Mile Island, Iran-Contra, the Reagan-Gorbachev summits, all fascinating. But I think with wonder at the amazing history that I've been able to witness. Sandra Day O'Connor, I was assigned to cover her elevation to the Supreme Court, the first woman on the High Court. Reagan at the Brandenburg Gate saying, "Tear down this wall, Mr. Gorbachev." The Bush years, Desert Storm. The Clinton-Gore bus trips across America. The revolution in Haiti, Fidel Castro's Cuba, and of course 9/11. Afghanistan, Iraq, Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden. 3 generations of brutal dictators in North Korea. The story still unfolding. Through it all, there has been one constant: the examples of my colleagues at NBC and MSNBC, and indeed all of you at competing networks. The shared determination, what we do every day, whenever that call comes. We go anywhere that news is breaking, no matter how far, no matter how dangerous, no matter how difficult the assignment. We are now in an entirely new environment. In my experience, during more than 4 decades covering the White House and Congress and national security during 7 administrations, politics was invariably and appropriately adversarial. But this is different. Now we are called the enemy of the people. Our credibility as journalists is deliberately targeted as part of a re-election strategy. Today, time-honored norms are ignored. Press secretaries and senior officials deliver alternative facts. Traditions such as White House briefings, State Department expanded travel pools, formal news conferences are replaced by shouted exchanges on the South Lawn, often drowned out by the whirling rotor blades of Marine One. It is not comfortable for this journalist to become part of the story or the foil for official criticism. I don't think it's comfortable for any of us. As the atmosphere has become more hostile, I think we also have to calibrate our own responses. Social media are a powerful yet sometimes dangerous force. It is our responsibility to fact check. But if we are going to be taken seriously as referees in this highly polarized environment And I need not add, on this night of all nights, it is only going to get more polarized. I think we need to do it without glee or animus. These are difficult times. The pace and velocity of breaking news can sometimes feel relentless. So while it is incredibly gratifying to be recognized by all of you, by my peers tonight, I like to think that I have only traveled a certain distance along this incredible journey. There are still a lot of roads to explore, a lot of people to interview, a lot of stories to be told. The race is not yet done. Thank you all so much.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.